everybody, it's Rob. Today is going to be a real special day. First of all, I apologize in advance for the audio. It is very early in the morning. I think it is 5:30 in the morning. I'm doing this video before anybody in the house gets up, so I have some actual peace and quiet. But as you can see, it's Diamine Inkvent Calendar 2025 time. This is the Teal Edition. This is the first time I've ever done a Diamine Inkvent Calendar. Mostly because I just got into fountain pens a little over a year ago, so this time last year I had just started dipping my toe in the process and was nowhere near ready to tackle this. So what this is like a typical advent calendar. There are little windows on this package that you pop one open every day of the month from the 1st of December, culminating on the 25th of December here. Inside most of them are smaller ink bottles. Inside the Christmas one is a larger ink bottle. It's just enough of some new ink colors that Diamine puts out to give you a taste of what's coming over the next year. It will be a mixture of standard inks, shading inks, shimmer inks, and sheening inks. And you will get a good flavor, a good sense of the flavor that Diamine provides to their customers. They're one of my favorite brands of colors, if not my first favorite. They are not the only Inkvent calendar out there, but this is the one that is recommended for people who like specialty inks like sheens and shimmers. And that, for me, this year is my jam. So I was very keen on getting this and testing this out. I thought I'll make a video every day of that day's Inkvent calendar and post it. I'm shooting this in the morning. My goal is to have this edited and posted the same day. So if you are not current on your days with the Inkvents, this is your warning. There will be spoilers ahead. I am going to show you what's behind door number 1 because today is December 1st, 2025. So if you don't want to know what this is, don't proceed any further. Here's your chance. All right, proceeding forward. What I thought I would do is similar to my normal swatch setup. I've changed it just a bit though and made a new swatch card for this process. My normal swatch cards don't look exactly like this, but they are on these index cards that I get. They're Rolodex style, and I get these from the Well-Appointed Desk run by Anna Reinhardt. And she provides also a stamp collection that you can purchase, and that's where these come from. And this is an archival ink quality black stamp that's just plain and no frills so that the ink really shows off all of its characteristics. I did use my Kokuyo endless stamp set. I have the letters and the numbers, and I created just a little label across the top. And that way, when this is in my Rolodex, I can flip through this category and quickly pick out which ones are from the Diamine Inkvent calendar for 2025. I'll put down the name of the ink, the date that it's from, so today's will be December 1st, and any characteristics I can pick up, plus a nice swatch and maybe some doodle work. I've got a couple of tools to use. I use a Kakimori steel nib set into a Tachikawa wooden handle that's got a squishy grip. I've got a Sailor Hakura dip pen, and this is a 2.0 millimeter stub nib. And then I just picked up an ink muddler. It's a glass pen on one end and an ink muddler on the other, and this is from Diamine Industry. I purchased all of this from Pen Chalet and Atlas Stationer. I've never used this ink muddler dip pen before, so this will be a fun experiment for both of us. Sorry about the plastic first, but I've got my backup tools just in case the ink muddler doesn't work out. I also thought I would do a little writing sample on an MD paper, cream colored pad of paper, and I'll save this for ink swatches going forward just to do a little test sample. And this is the typical MD paper, high quality fountain pen friendly paper that's got a very light grit on it, and it's just a small stable bound book that I think is going to be perfect for doing a sample. Alright, so without further ado, let me be careful with this so that it doesn't accidentally break, because it is fragile glass. I'll put that on the Coffee Monsters Co. Ink Blob pen rest. Alright, I'm so excited. Without further ado, for December 1st, 2025, the ink sample from the Diamine Inkvent Calendar Teal Edition is Celestial Skies. As you can see, they come shrink wrapped, that you can see shimmer on the back where it was resting, so we know this is a shimmer ink. And it seems to me from the color of the label, if that's an indicator, this is going to be a light to medium blue, sort of almost teal color with gold shimmer in it. Let's just get this out of the way and move forward. When I'm doing ink swatching, I always set up a little bit of kitchen towel just to catch any stray blobs. When you're working with a sheening ink or a shimmer ink like this, it's a really good idea to agitate it. I usually roll it back and forth like this from both directions, as opposed to violently shaking it, because that also produces air bubbles and it makes the ink solution sort of foamy and harder to write with. But it's really important to agitate your inks, even if they're not shimmer, just because it is chemistry. Things can separate. You want to make sure everything's combined. But especially with shimmer, you want that shimmer to be distributed throughout the ink so that in your sampling, you get a good preview. Let's try this ink muddler and dip pen first. The channels that are in this blown glass muddler trap a fair amount of ink, and I probably will not be able to use all of that on this one little card, so hopefully I'll be able to get both writing samples done. Alright, so it hasn't even dried yet, and I can already see there's some shading and perhaps some sheening. It looks to me like there may be a little bit of a red sheen trying to pop through. But we've definitely got some shading, and we've definitely got some shimmer. So I'll click those. Now before I flip this over and use the muddler end, let me just do another writing sample while I've got this ink well loaded up. Right, so typical to a normal swatch test, I've got some fresh clean water here in some disposable cups so that I can clean off the nib of whatever pen I'm using, and a fluffy towel to dry it off. Let's try the other end of this lovely tool and try the ink muddler. So it's just a flat disc with a slight impression that should hold a fair amount of ink. And what you do is dip it. just use this to stir while I'm in here because I want that shimmer to distribute. I'm not seeing much shimmer, and I wonder if it hadn't already settled and I should agitate it again. This is one of the drawbacks of using a shimmer ink, if you could call it a drawback. You do have to agitate every once in a while, whether it's in the bottle, if you're using a dip nib situation, or whether it's doing this motion with your fountain pen, because inside your ink converter, the shimmer will also settle. I can see a little shimmer popping out, so it wasn't fully settled, but let's see how much more I can get. And while we're at it, let's switch to a different tool. Now this has got a wider barrel, so I'll have to tip. And the reason why it's nice to make larger splotches of ink is because you can let the ink puddle. That's how you'll see a lot of its different characteristics, like shading and sheening, not to mention the shimmer. And a lot of those characteristics will pop out as it dries, so I'm going to move on over here and do a little swatch on here too. Just a little sparkle flourish. Now, something else that this technique is good for is to determining bleed through. I have yet to see anything bleed through on these well-appointed desk index cards. They're called coloring. Get it? Coloring, coloring. COL-O-RING. Coloring, but you say it, coloring. Anna's so clever. It took me until this year to figure out what she was doing with that, if I'm honest. I'm just gonna give this another quick agitation. Because I'd like to get out the Hokoro dip pen. You can see that the stub nib gives a different angle, and that will show some different characteristics as well. And you can use a flat angle to do some swatching as well, as it lays down a lot of ink at once. See how much ink it holds, just one dip. Quite nice. You can see all of that shimmer, and there is some sheening going. You can see in the areas where it puddled a beautiful dark pink magenta sheen popping up. So this is going to be a stunning ink. Not too shabby for the first day of the Inkvent calendar. You can see the sheening, the shimmer, all of it. Now let's do a bleed through test. There's some shadowing, but there is no bleed through. And those are some heavy swatches, so that should be a nice stable ink to use. Of course, no bleed through on these beautiful cards. Let's do one more quick test. This is my 2020 2025 Hobonichi Cousin. This has the problematic Tomoe River Sensen paper. So I thought I would do a little test sample. So I'm going to answer tomorrow's prompt, which is, would you rather have to wear hot pink sneakers or a backward baseball cap every time you go out for the rest of your life for all occasions? That prompt is from the Coffee Monsters Co. Helen Wang comes up with this list of prompts to jumpstart your morning session and is kind enough to provide those for free to fans of her Facebook group. So if you're not a member of the Coffee Monsters Co. fan group on Facebook, go check it out and you'll get access to things like that. So just some initial thoughts on this Dominant Industry ink muddler. The nib holds a tremendous amount of ink. I would have been able to probably finish my entire page on that. So it did feel a little wasteful to clean that off. There was so much more pretty ink left to use. These grooves hold a lot of ink. The tip is quite smooth to write with still. It's nice and sharp. You can see that that's a fine line that it's putting down. Just for reference, this line up here is written with a Lamy Safari extra fine pen, and that's just a little bit larger, so it's definitely a fine nib. The ink muddler part puts down a nice puddle of ink. It holds a lot. Now this one I did with the Kakimori nib, but this one was done with the muddler. And that's written with the dip nib part, so well done. I do think I would prefer a little bit of a larger pen. I have bigger hands, so something that's got a little bit more substantial girth to it is more comfortable for me to hold. And for example, this Tachikawa nib holder has this soft grip that's really nice for longer writing sessions. But this nib was much more pleasant to use than the Kakimori nib. I've never tried any of their other metals. This is the stainless steel version, so I don't have anything else to compare to, but this glass pen, I have tried a couple of other brands, and they're very scratchy, and this was nice and smooth. It still had pleasant feedback, but it was still smoother than the other glass pens that I've used. But the diameter could be a little thicker, and it could be a little longer. This feels kind of like using a pocket pen, and unless I post my pocket pens, I normally don't find them that comfortable to write with because of the size of my hands. So I wish this was just a little bit larger. But on the whole, I think that this was a successful first foray into an Inkvent reveal. Let me know what you guys thought. Let me know about my setup if you'd like to see me do anything else with these samples. And if you liked this content, please consider subscribing and maybe even commenting. I'd love to have interaction with viewers and answer questions or take suggestions. Feel free to also share this with any friends you think would get into some inky goodness. And as always, take care of yourself and take care of each other. Have a great day, guys. Sorry guys, I'm jumping back in here with an edited clip because I realized that I forgot to show you what this ink did through this paper. Again, this is my 2025 Hobonichi Cousin using the bad version, in quotes, of the Tomoe River Sensen paper. I got heavy shadowing, but no bleed through, maybe a couple of little dots. But you can see these markers had bigger dots. And these are Write-Tech markers that typically don't bleed through anything, but they did this. And this ink has just a couple of minor dots of bleed through. So I would still consider this ink to be quite suitable for everyday use, even though there's heavy shadowing. I have no problems with shadowing. I think that's fine. It's bleed through that I have the problem with, and this is mostly controlled. So 2 thumbs up still. All right, carry on with your day.